Credence Paperback by Penelope Douglas. 17-year-old Tiernan de Haas has spent most of her life feeling invisible. Born into wealth and privilege, she has everything that should make a teenager's life perfect. But her parents, famous and always distant, have never truly seen her. When they suddenly die in a tragic accident, she is left alone, orphaned, and completely untethered. No one notices, no one grieves with her, and no one asks her what she wants. That is, until her father's estranged stepbrother, Jake van der Berg, comes forward, offering her a place to stay. Jake is the kind of man Tiernan has never encountered before. Rough, rugged, and completely unlike the polished men in her parents' world, he lives deep in the Colorado mountains, running a survivalist compound with his two sons, Kaleb and Noah. With no better option, Tiernan agrees to stay with them for a few months until she turns 18. But nothing could have prepared her for what she would find there. The isolation of the mountains, the overwhelming silence, and the raw, untamed masculinity of the men she is now living with shake her to her core. At first, Tiernan is out of place. The cold is brutal, the isolation suffocating, and the van der Berg men are more than intimidating. Jake is authoritative and commanding, with a presence that demands respect. Noah, the younger of the two sons, is charming and playful, a golden boy with an easy smile that should put her at ease. But Kaleb, the older son, is an enigma. He doesn't speak, at all. He communicates through his actions, his eyes, and an undeniable intensity that both frightens and fascinates her. As the months pass, the initial discomfort fades, replaced by a sense of belonging that Tiernan has never known. She is no longer invisible. Here, in the wild, brutal mountains, she is seen, she is noticed, and she is wanted. Each of the van der Berg men is drawn to her in their own way, each presenting a different kind of temptation. Jake's protective dominance, Noah's warmth and flirtation, and Kaleb's dark, wordless obsession all pull her in conflicting directions. But with the first snowfall, everything changes. Cut off from the outside world, trapped in the mountains with these three men, Tiernan's world becomes dangerously intimate. She discovers things about herself she never expected, realizes desires she never knew she had, and faces emotions more powerful than anything she has ever experienced. The boundaries blur, the tension thickens, and soon, she finds herself caught in a storm that has nothing to do with the brutal Colorado winter. Tiernan struggles to understand her place in the van der Berg home. Is she family, a guest, or something else entirely? The lines keep shifting, and every day brings new temptations, new conflicts, and new revelations about the men around her. Jake's experience and power draw her in, making her feel safe in a way she never has before. Noah's playful teasing offers a sense of normalcy and comfort she desperately craves. And Kaleb is something else entirely. He is wild, unpredictable, and dangerous, yet Tiernan finds herself unable to look away. As the days turn into weeks, the tension between them escalates into something explosive. With no one else around, the isolation amplifies every touch, every glance, every whispered breath. But just as Tiernan begins to surrender to the storm, a devastating truth surfaces, forcing her to confront the reality of her choices. The weight of what she has become entangled in crashes down on her, and suddenly, everything she thought she knew about herself and the men around her is put into question. When the snow begins to melt and the real world starts creeping back in, Tiernan is forced to make a choice. Will she stay in the mountains and embrace the life she has found, or will she return to the world she once knew? And more importantly, when she finally understands the true nature of the relationships she has built, will she be able to walk away from the darkness she has come to crave? As the ice thaws and the mountain's grip begins to loosen, the choices before Tiernan become painfully clear. Each of the van der Berg men represents something different. Jake, a strong and steady force, a father figure with an undeniable allure; Noah, a boyish reprieve from the intensity of the life she has come to know; and Kaleb, a dark and irresistible mystery she can't help but be drawn toward. Her relationships with each of them grow more complicated, fraught with unspoken emotions and forbidden desires. The isolation has blurred the lines between right and wrong, and Tiernan finds herself dangerously close to a precipice she may not be able to step back from. Kaleb's silence speaks louder than words. His raw, primal energy calls to something deep inside her, a part of herself she never knew existed. He doesn't ask, he doesn't beg, he simply takes. And for Tiernan, there's something intoxicating about surrendering to his control. But as she loses herself in him, she begins to wonder if she is truly safe, or if she is merely a possession to be kept and claimed. Meanwhile, Noah's gentle touch and playful charm remind her of the normalcy she never had. With him, she can laugh, she can breathe, she can forget. But even as she lets herself fall into his warmth, she knows Noah's lightness cannot shield her from the darkness looming within Kaleb. Jake, the man who took her in, watches from the shadows, knowing full well what is happening under his roof. He is older, wiser, and yet, even he is not immune to the temptation of the young woman who has unknowingly turned all their lives upside down. The winter months are a haze of passion, power struggles, and blurred morality. What began as an arrangement, an act of charity, has become something none of them were prepared for. Tiernan has always been a survivor, but now, she wonders if she will survive herself. The relationships she has built, the choices she has made, and the desires she has awakened in herself and the men around her are threatening to consume her. As the snow begins to melt and the real world comes knocking, she must decide who she wants to be. Will she return to civilization, to the life she once knew, or has the wild claimed her for good? Is she strong enough to leave, or has she finally found the place where she truly belongs? The van der Berg men have changed her, marked her in ways she can never undo. But the question remains, has she changed them, too? And when the mountain finally releases her, will she be able to walk away from the darkness she has come to crave, or will she run straight into its arms? Credence is not just a story about survival, it's about discovery. It's about what happens when a girl who has never been seen is finally noticed, when a heart that has never felt finally begins to beat, and when the most dangerous place in the world is not the isolated mountains, but the desires lurking within. It's a story that challenges boundaries, pushes limits, and forces its characters to face the most terrifying truth of all: sometimes, the greatest danger is not what lurks in the shadows, but what waits inside ourselves. A tale of forbidden love, raw emotion, and the intoxicating pull of the unknown, Credence will leave you breathless, questioning, and utterly consumed.